We do not make art because it is pretty. We make art because it is the language of the human spirit. We make art to reach out and touch the soul, remind ourselves that it is there, holding us close.
Hello and welcome. We are here with St James's Place and Sky Arts in these hallowed halls, a beautiful setting of Battersea Arts Centre, to talk about invaluable advice and mentorship. And I'm here with Cassa Pancho, Nikita Gill and John Waugh. Welcome, everybody. The idea of being a role model, is it something that you see? Do you see yourself as a role model? And what do you think a role model is, actually?
Well, I mean, I set up Ballet Black to create role models for little black girls to see themselves in ballet. But even though I'm mixed, no one ever realises I'm half Caribbean.
Right.
So I never felt that I was a visible role model for those little girls because I don't look like an obvious black person.
Yeah.
And so I always thought I'm not really a role model, but my dancers can be, because it was a real visible issue for ballet 20 years ago. And so I could see the importance of my little girls seeing these women on stage. But what I didn't realise is that what they saw in me was someone that was running my own business.
Right.
And it kind of blew their minds that I was the boss. They kept saying, but who's your boss?
It's like me.
I said, I'm the boss. But who is your boss above you?
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to get them to understand that. But once they did, it's you see a kind of a dawning, oh, can I run a Ballet Black or a ballet school? Yeah, you can.
I mean, the phrase "you cannot be what you do not see" is bandied around a lot these days, but it's really weighty and it's really, really relevant.
And you don't even have to say it. I mean, just having the Ballet Black dancers on stage is I like to say, show, don't tell.
Yes.
Because we could beat you over the head with why role models are important, why diversity is important, or we could just show you what it looks like and how great it is. And that's reflected in the audience, and that means that all those younger people coming up who have wondered, is there a career path for me?
Do you think it's important, not just for the dancers, but also for the teachers? I went to ballet when I was young, and my ballet teacher told me that I should be a go-go dancer, which is basically working in a strip club.
Yep.
Oh, my God. When I was 9 years old, she told me
so many
that.
young black girls were told that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even today, people are saying that. But now there are more black teachers because there have been more black ballet dancers. So generally, when you teach ballet, it's because you've been a ballet dancer. You don't normally just do it having not done ballet your whole life.
So there has to be layers, and there has to be time.
But it takes time.
I had some really good mentors in the form of I think English teachers can really change your life if you're a writer or a poet, right? Somebody who at the age of 11 or maybe 10 or something looks at you and says, you've got talent, you've got a skill, like you know how to tell stories. And I had a really strict English teacher who initially used to throw my notebooks out of class because she thought I was so bad at like finishing things and wouldn't do my homework or whatever. And then one day I came to her with a finished story about my grandfather, and she said, you have some real talent. Now, a teacher who goes from doing that to then telling you that you have a gift. And then I became, I would like to think at least, her favourite student in class.
Can you remember the best piece of advice you've ever been given, like life advice that I'm assuming you then apply to your work?
This is probably more practical advice, and I think it's more to do with having conviction in how you value yourself financially. Because most young artists do struggle in their, you know, for me in my early 20s, I'd resided to being happily skint for quite a few years.
Oh, yeah.
And that seems to be this, a lot of people deem it a rite of passage, which perhaps isn't the best path for a young creative person. But a friend of mine at the time, when I was maybe 22, 23, I was playing in a band with him, an amazing vocalist called Tabo Mokonanzi. And I think he was quoting someone else, but he said something along the lines of, to do what you love what you do, then find someone to pay you to do it.
Right.
And so the world isn't gonna hold my hand just because I've made some nice music. Show me the money.
My grandmother is the coolest and the best person when it comes to advice. And she basically said, there is always a new beginning at every end. You are the one that will have to build it, sometimes with your own hands, sometimes with a bunch of other people. And she basically said to me, take your role as a community builder seriously. Remember, there are others who are building alongside you. And I love the interconnection of new beginnings, hands conjoining together, building things together.
Yeah.
And I remember really, really struggling, like to the point that I just didn't think it was right that I had to struggle that hard to get into the arts. And all I could think was, I really hope it's not this hard for someone who comes in 10 years after me. I hope we make enough changes and enough good things happen, enough progress happens that it's never this hard again for anyone. And so what I try to do and what I believe in very strongly is, as a creative person, it is such a big part of my job to try and make that happen.
For other people as well. And that stems from that advice. Is there any advice you would give your younger self? One piece of advice that you could give your younger self at the very beginning of your kind of creative process, really, Cassa?
For me in ballet, it felt like you're supposed to always be humble and grateful for everything. And what I would say to my younger self is stop being grateful and just take what it is that you want and be unapologetic.
And know that you have the right.
Exactly.
To be there, to be in that room, to be on that stage, to be in that school, to be in that environment. How about you, John? What would you say to 20-year-old John?
I think just stick with your inner circle of friends and the people that are like-minded, because I think that helps you to shape a moral code. It has an influence on your artistic taste, the strategy behind your decisions to move forward in a career. It gives you confidence, and we touched upon a sense of identity. I think if a combination of those things, when they're worked on and when it's right, it gives you a lot of power, and it gives you, the means to stand up to people who might get in your way.
You're right. That having a moral code, so to speak, that just knowing where your parameters lie. I mean, you're sort of, in some ways, talking about similar things, because knowing that that is not something I want to do. I mean, there are things that I've done and that have been sort of disastrous, really. And then, but from that, I've learned quite a lot. It's like, well, I definitely don't want to do that again. I'm definitely not going to work with those people again. And that can be as useful as actually the things that have gone brilliantly well. Do you get that?
I changed the way I looked at mistakes and rejection a while back, and it really changed who I was as an artist. Someone said this, that you learn more from a mistake as an artist or like a rejection as an artist than you do from your successes, because your successes have only been able to get there because of all of these errors that you've made along the way. And I really appreciated that piece of advice, because it made me realize that there is no such thing really as a mistake. It's all learning, it's all lessons, it's all just getting better at your craft.
Yeah.
And without doing those things, how will you know?
Once it's out there, you can't take it back.
Yeah, well, with 1975, we laugh at one another.
Yeah.
If there's a glaring mistake, our first reaction isn't to be embarrassed.
Like,
we all look at one another and we're in hysterics. And maybe it's ironic that it tends to make for a better performance, because it lightens us up. If we're rigid and tense and we're aiming for perfection, it feels very uncomfortable. You can feel it physically in your body, whereas the second you make a silly mistake, you realise that it's, everything's fine.
Yeah.
What does success mean to you, Cassa?
For me, Ballet Black being almost 23 years old is success, like still being here after many years of that's never going to last. No one's ever going to come and see your work. Once you've achieved some kind of success, you're not done. Because if you sell out the Albert Hall or you win an award or get the biggest grant, that's what you did that day. What are you going to do tomorrow?
Yes.
That's for me. So whenever someone says quantify your success, I'm like, OK, well, that was success up to this minute that I've said it. And now I still need to do some more.
I think as artists, we're always looking forward as well, aren't we? And it doesn't happen overnight, the idea of success, or feeling like you've made some kind of headway.
You mentioned there how you might achieve a goal. You play the Albert Hall or whatever it is. And then you wake up the following morning and you're like, right, well...
What's next?
How do I follow that? And I think to combat that is to still have these flagship goals that help you to progress and develop, but then along the way to celebrate the smaller victories. So even if it's just on your own, when you're working from home, or, you know, so for me, I've got a studio at home. It's just me, it's quiet, and those are some of the most fulfilling days that I have.
Do things that make you joyful. Mm-hmm. And when you're joyful, then that, to me, is success, that feeling of it being the thing that really connects to the fire in your heart or the fire in your belly, and that lights that flame, and that you can transmit to the audience or whoever it is that you're working with. What do you think, say, your 80-year-old self looking at you now, what do you think that they would say to you?
Oh, man, get over yourself. No, yeah, get over it. Like, no, it's the thing. It's because of anxiety. So I get quite bad anxiety, panic situations. And I do it to myself, really, in many ways, because we talked about performance. We talked about, you know, perfection and stuff like that. So this anxiety that I get, so much of it is about caring too much what other people will think.
I feel like the second oldest at this table. You say, you should have appreciated your knees.
Oh, it's too late for me.
It's too late for me
now.
For my knees. Should have taken care of them. Oh my God, they're like 2 bags of gravel now. I think it would be to say you tried your best each time. And sometimes your best is rubbish, and sometimes it's excellent. And then sometimes it's that boring bit in between where you're just there and everything's just ticking over. And that's all right. Yeah, the boring bits are necessary in between the big highs and lows. And so you tried your best.
It's interesting because you all seem to be saying be kinder to yourselves.
Yeah. I think the get over yourself and for me, it's like, it's only ballet. We're not curing cancer.
It's just dinner.
We're not
just
removing
ballet.
brain tumours.
Just poetry.
It's just,
facts, you know. What do you think we need to do to help protect the future of the arts? Because the arts are innately important for life. John?
I think, firstly, to continue teaching it in schools. I owe so much to my music teachers. I've formed lifelong friendships through playing music. I can't imagine being at 14 years of age with a curiosity to delve into music and the arts and having that deprived.
Just awful.
And that's going to be happening, sadly, to a lot of teenagers, a lot of children over the next 20, 30 years if we don't change it. And I'm yet to hear a justified reason as to why it's happened.
I think that we somehow remind, especially young people, but all people, that we are all artistic in some way. So you might not be thinking you're consuming art, but we are all consuming art all the time. Just choosing the colour lipstick you want to wear.
The clothes we put on.
The clothes we put on. Somebody made it. Somebody creative and artistic designed it. And it's to remind people that everything around us is art.
Everyone has a piece of art that changed them somewhere in their lives. Every single human being was like, this changed me as a person. That's how urgent the arts
I think that's essential. Art changes, I think, on a sort of cellular, molecular level. Art changes who we are for the better.
Exactly.
So it's been such a pleasure to sit and have this conversation with all three of you. It's really, really wonderful and galvanising for me, and has re-inspired me to really think about how we go about each and every single day with artistic, creative purpose. Thank you very much, Cassa. Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Andi.
Thank you for watching.